Welcome to Alaska Real Estate, the greatest show on earth. I'm Chris Story. Today on Alaska Real Estate, Kevin Donnelly, a legislative rep with NAR. He'll be joining us from D.C. with the inside scoop on a recent housing summit. Anita Bates, real estate broker and commissioner, she'll share her thoughts on the proposed license fee increase. Right here on Alaska Real Estate Podcast. Today's edition of Alaska Real Estate made possible in part thanks to AHFC. Alaska Housing is your partner in all things real estate. From energy efficiency to low-interest mortgages, AHFC has a product for just about everyone. Have clients looking to invest in multifamily? Check out Alaska Housing's 5+ programs. It's never been easier thanks to Alaska Housing. Online at ahfc.us or call 1-800-478-AHFC. Now, live from his office deep in the bowels of NAR headquarters in Washington, D.C., Legislative Representative Kevin Donnelly. Kevin, can't hear you. Close your window, would you? Thanks. Were you in attendance of the conference?
I was there, as well as quite a few of the legislative reps from the Realtors, and then certainly we had representatives from our leadership who were invited to speak to the group. Ron Phipps, notably the current president of NAR, Lawrence Yoon, who's our chief economist. Many of your members know him well, so he always brings a very respected voice to the table, and he was there representing our policies on, I guess, the approach folks are going to look at when we come up for tax reform and even things on the immediate horizon with the super committee.
The title of the conference was The New Solutions for America's Housing Crisis, and it was held on October 4th. Tell us a little bit about who organized the conference and what was the objective. Do you feel like there was a takeaway or an outcome that was favorable from the association's perspective?
The conference was organized by the Progressive Policy Institute and E21. Those are two organizations here in Washington, D.C. The Progressive Policy Institute is left-leaning, and E21 is more conservative, right-leaning. The two groups partnered up for this occasion to bring together some very well-respected voices within the housing advocacy community and the economics world. The purpose of it was to draw attention to an issue which has gone largely ignored from the perspective of groups like ours and certainly other advocates who have said from day one that housing needs to be priority number one. If you're going to restore the national economy, housing has to be at the forefront, and largely because of a change in leadership in the House of Representatives, as well as a need to reduce our deficit and impressions that folks on Capitol Hill and in the administration have when it comes to housing's role in government spending. There was a need to take a fresh look, and I think that's what this conference achieved. It certainly brought the issue to the forefront. We had a great turnout from the media. We had everyone from CNBC to C-SPAN, a lot of the business magazines. The Wall Street Journal made a reference to the conference. What this did was it brought the crisis back to the forefront, sent a very stark reminder to the administration and Capitol Hill that housing cannot be ignored any longer. And if you are truly going to usher in a period of economic growth and prosperity, housing has to be number one priority.
With some of the things that the NAR is hoping to achieve or pushing for legislatively, what's your impression, Kevin, after the conference of were a majority of the people in attendance favorable to NAR's ideas and hopes and dreams with respect to housing, or do you think we have an uphill battle?
Well, I think if you just take a look at the population of folks who attended the conference, it was a very diverse group. It included everyone from Hill staffers, from, frankly, offices of members and senators who we do not count as some of our greatest allies, to, housing advocates who stand in the trenches with us every day, to senators, congressmen themselves, and folks from economic think tanks who, frankly, are very much opposed to our line of thinking, whether it's on MID or conforming loan limits. And if you just take that population as an example, what that shows us is that folks are realizing that housing is the linchpin that's holding us back from a true recovery right now. And we need to have an honest discussion about the role of housing in our economy and sort of strip away the empty talking points and look at what is working, what has worked for generations, and go back to the drawing board. So when we have, staffers and senators and congressmen in attendance who, frankly, are not our allies, that shows us that they're taking our position seriously, that they believe we do have some cred. on those. If you take, for example, the issue of loan limits for the FHA and GSEs, on October 1, those loan limits expired, and the National Association of Realtors, home builders, mortgage bankers, we all joined in unison, screaming at the top of our lungs to have those extended for another year. While we were unsuccessful there, the fight has certainly not died. We're taking it up again and pressing our case to everyone that is willing to listen. But even on that topic, we have seen great movement from the right, frankly, where we have faced that opposition in coming around to our position. Mark Zandi, a very well-respected economist, used to be on John McCain's campaign team as an advisor, recently came out and said that while he has strongly supported letting those limits drop to reduce the role of government, now is not the time because of the, frankly, continuing crisis in America's housing market. It's these ideas that came out of this conference and, frankly, the message that NAR has been beating its drum to for the past year or two. It's resonating. People are understanding that we do need a fresh look and a coherent housing policy that's really going to help our members, but certainly help the nation's economy.
The second panel of the day was entitled Jumpstarting the Housing Market, Innovative Solutions. Kevin, was there an idea that stands out in your mind as it pertains to an innovative solution that you said, oh, that's unique, or that's a different perspective I hadn't thought of?
Richard Smith, who's the president and CEO of Realogy Corporation, he made the case that loan limits going down is that issue in particular translates into fewer sales, and really made a case that a coherent national housing policy would go to great lengths. If that included a maintaining of the previous GSE loan limits, our housing market and our economy overall would be in a much better position. And I'll just touch on that real quick. NAR has estimated that Alaska itself, just to bring it more back home for you guys, NAR estimates that Alaska will see a reduction of over $2 million in economic activity just this year alone, and local tax revenue will drop by $34.3 million nationally as a result of the decline in these limits. That overall is a $1.9 billion economic loss for this country. Now, the question becomes, when we're steeped in a economic crisis, trying to get ourselves out of debt, trying to get ourselves to stop running up the deficit, can we afford $1.9 billion to disappear from our economy? I think many would argue not.
Thank you very much, Kevin Donnelly. I really appreciate your time today.
All right. Take care.
Rhonda Johnson with Alaska USA Mortgage. What I'd like to talk to you about today is the change in the VA funding fee. And what's happened is Public Law 112-26 has been passed, which is restoring the GI Bill Fairness Act of 2011. For any loan that's closed on or after October 1st, 2011, the new VA funding fee for the first time that you use it to apply for VA financing is now 1.40% instead of 2.15. If you've used your VA eligibility before, you can use it several times. The new fee for repeat use is 2.80% instead of 3.3. So that's a significant reduction in the cost of doing a VA loan. And I'd like to let you know that Alaska USA Mortgage Company has 10 offices statewide to assist our veterans with taking advantage of these new lower funding fees. You can reach me at my direct line number, which is 907-714-4391, or on the web at rhondajohnson.net.
Please welcome your Alaska Real Estate Commissioner, Anita Bates. I'd like to ask you about your thoughts of this proposed increase to the license fee, which I hope every realtor is aware of at this point. As a commissioner, what are your thoughts about this increase, and did it come as a surprise?
Well, I'll tell you, Chris, this is one of the most shocking things I've ever seen. As a new commissioner, of course, I'm not totally familiar with all of the history and background, but one thing I can tell you is that at our September meeting, we had been asked by the division to give a recommendation of a proposed fee amount for this licensing period. And looking at the revenue and expenditures that we had been provided with, a spreadsheet, we came up with a range from $355 to $385. That's what we recommended.
As a total? As a total,
not including the recovery fund fee, which is a totally separate issue, but just for a licensing fee. And this is not only for renewal, but for new licensees as well. And so you can imagine our surprise when we looked at this proposal of $685. That's, depending on how you look at the math, it's either a 149% increase or a 249% increase. It really depends on, like I say, verbiage. But even at 149%, that is huge, absolutely huge. And none of us as commissioners were prepared for that. And I think that collectively we were all very surprised and really concerned about how they're coming up with their numbers.
And Dave Summers in a previous podcast had mentioned that the budget would increase roughly, and it's an estimate only, of course, of $1 million. And I'm wondering if the Division of Occupational Licensing has made the commission or commissioners aware about where the money will be spent and what it'll be allocated for.
Well, that's part of the problem, as I see it. We were provided with an audit that was prepared in June of this year, and it was basically an audit of the Division of Corporations, Business and Professional Licensing. And in that independent audit, it was basically reviewing different methodology of how the departments are handling what they're doing. And there were several things that were brought out in that audit that indicated that possibly the way that the accounting is being done is not really accurate or appropriate. So that's one of the questions that the Commission has raised as, are these calculations really based on factual information? And secondly, one of our bigger concerns is the fact that we really don't have a budget. The Real Estate Commission has not been provided with a budget for a long, long time, and we have absolutely no control over our income and expenditures. It basically is all handled under the Department of Commerce, Community Commerce and Economic Development. And so that's, something that we're very concerned about, and we feel that it's something that we should be involved in. We should have some ability to take a look at what the budget numbers are and make recommendations accordingly.
Has the Commission taken a position on this proposal officially?
I do know that the chairman of the commission has written a letter to the director of the division asking for an explanation as to why the increase and how that is broken down against the costs that they are allocating to the Real Estate Commission. As yet, of course, I don't know of any response that has been made, but I believe that the director has been on vacation, and so we can't expect a response while he's out of town. We are waiting for something to come back that is more detailed as far as what their thoughts are and why what they're trying to justify with this. And so I do know that the commission collectively through the chairman has approached the division with some really big questions and concerns. I know that I've received a lot of phone calls and emails from individual licensees and have been trying to explain to them, first of all, that this is not the commission doing this. This came strictly from the division, and that we are as concerned as all the licensees.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your work on behalf of licensees all across the state.
Thank you, Chris.
Hi, my name is Denise Goss, and I work for Alaska USA Title here in Fairbanks. We just opened up a new office, and we're here to help in any way that we can for your title needs. I've actually been in the business for over 20 years, and I am the actual title officer here in the office. And I believe my strong points are sitting down with customers and helping them through trying to buy or sell property and letting them understand what our point is and what we can do for them so that they're not so concerned about, oh my gosh, what's going to happen, that we're here to help them, not try to make it more encumbrance or anything. I just want to say that we're very, very excited about being here, and you can reach me at 907-328-5312, and we deal with almost half or the north half of the state of Alaska. Thank you very much.
Have questions about the proposed increase? Check out the Call to Action podcast or visit alaskarealtors.com for more information. Until we meet again, I'm Chris Story, wishing you health, wealth, and happiness.